broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey, welcome to the AFTERBUZZ Hannibal After Show. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm here in the studio alone. Well, it's not completely alone. I'm with Marissa. Hi, Marissa.
Hi, Joe.
I'm here. No Joe Sanfilippo. No Julia Carely. But on the phone, I do have the lovely Dua Kaissi. Dua, are you there?
Hi, welcome. How are you, Joe?
I'm wonderful. I wasn't here last week, and I may or may not have been here the week before, but I'm certainly here this week, even if it's all alone.
Just for the good stuff.
Just for the good stuff. Dua, you and Julia got it done last week. I don't know where the hell.
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell Joe Sanfilippo's been, actually.
You missed a great episode last week. I think the title of the episode was "The Woman Cloaked with the Sun," and the title of this episode was "The Woman Cloaked in the Sun."
Right.
So I mean, for a while I was like, wait a minute, I already saw this episode, and then I was like, no, wait, it's a different title.
Right.
So very, very similar, and then also quite a departure from the titles that we've been, used to.
Yeah, I mean, they're really going for elements of the Thomas Harris Red Dragon. I think the watercolor was The Great Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed in the Sun. That's the actual.
Yeah.
That's the title of the watercolor, the 200-year-old painting, in which our boy Francis decided to ingest.
Yeah, completely consume, if you will.
Yeah, when we get to that later, there's a lot of this. We're in really interesting territory here because this is sort of, what this is ground. This is, I don't know what this phrase is. Well, something ground. I don't know. This is. We've seen all of this before, twice before in two movies. One really good one just okay one, and then we of course know this from Red Dragon the book. And now we're getting sort of, the Bryan Fuller take on this, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I really think this is cool. I actually think that, Red Dragon. I think Red Dragon can be told a third time, and the book is so good, and the stories are so good that the idea of taking that book and then stretching it out over, I think it's 8 episodes, actually it works for me. So I'm kind of enjoying this sort of like deep dive into Red Dragon. How about you?
I really love it. I talked about this a little bit last week that, I recently rewatched the movie Red Dragon just so I could, get all of the little details and everything that is different. And just the way it's told this time is just so cinematically stunning. The capabilities that we have now with, CGI, with, it shows a lot about how we've evolved in the movie and television and film, like what we can do now with graphics, with, special effects.
Yeah.
And they really kind of took it to the next level.
I agree.
And it's so much fun.
Well, what I also like is I like the idea of sort of these different mediums. I mean, obviously the Thomas Harris book is a classic, but then I like the idea, it really, for those who love movies and love the stuff, most of you listening to this podcast have probably seen Manhunter, which is the Michael Mann version with William Peterson and Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, which is an excellent Michael Mann movie and an excellent sort of version of Red Dragon, if you will. So that, if you haven't seen that, please check that out. It's fantastic. But the way, just being able to see the way Michael Mann tells that story using what he does best at that time, and then being able to see it done again by Brett Ratner, it's just a much maligned version, but it does have Anthony Hopkins and Edward Norton, which are some great performances. But to see this version, which is a fully sort of like very like through the Bryan Fuller pen, and then through the lens of this time my boy Guillermo Navarro, who I love, but just that sort of like, again, that aesthetic that Bryan and David Slade has sort of set up, this visual aesthetic that we know and love from Hannibal. It's very cool to see. So yeah, I love it. I don't mind seeing this story told over and over again, personally.
Yeah, you get different vantage points, different views.
So this was directed by Guillermo Navarro, and we know him from season 2 of Hannibal. He directed a couple episodes, but he is also Guillermo del Toro's guy. So he's known as a cinematographer. He's Guillermo del Toro's cinematographer. So he shot Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and a bunch of other really cool stuff. So he's kind of already, used to this sort of like really sort of creepy, surreal horror kind of like deal that Guillermo loves and does. Guillermo del Toro, that is. So to see Guillermo Navarro get another shot in directing some episodes, I think he's really, really talented, and he does some really cool stuff. Especially the stuff that they do with the reflection of Hannibal Lecter, like the stuff they do where Hannibal's looking at the reflection of through the glass, and you can see, the person. You can see either whether it's Will or whoever it is. There's that one shot in particular where you can see Will's reflection inside Hannibal, almost like they're the same person. They do a lot of those. Yep. Those are really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. That was actually something that was it was actually, I think, one of the last scenes of this episode that we saw that, but it was just Hannibal in Will's face, and we see a lot of that. Julia talks about like the double side of the coin, but they always kind of like harken back to that to remind us that in a lot of ways, Will and Hannibal are the same person. They have a lot of the same attributes, and they can't really get out of each other, so to speak.
Sure. And I also think it's great. Well, we have a lot going on. We have the return of Bedelia. And now Bedelia is not a Thomas Harris character at all. Bedelia is new to the Hannibal universe, if you will, and so it's kind of cool to see her inserted in this version of Red Dragon, and the part that she plays in this story that we know in such a familiar way. But I don't know why I want to start here, but let's start with Bedelia, because she's back, and she's seems to be no worse the wear. In fact, she's doing great for herself. She's doing lectures. She's getting applause. She's sort of retelling the story of how she became Lydia Fell, and seems to be doing well. What I don't quite get, and I don't know if you get this or not, is like it was such a deep cover move that the way she's explaining it to Will is something like, Hannibal is my patient. I was just kind of trying to see this thing through. I got a little too close, but I did get some good observation. I got what I needed, and now I'm out. Was this like a whole... we kept trying to figure this out. Do you think this was really a deep cover operation, or was she really dickmatized, as Julia says? Like, what do you think?
I think, I think if this was, maybe a parallel universe, Hannibal and Bedelia would have made the perfect couple. Like, they really do. I think they're intellectual equals. They, I think that the whole idea of delving into the psyche and why people do what they do fascinates both of them. I think that she really, didn't judge Hannibal and was willing to take that ride. She said something, one of her lines, first of all, I love that you started with Bedelia, because she was my favorite part of this episode, and the scene with her and Will was amazing writing. Her line, covert treatment suffers misunderstanding and disappointment. I think that kind of sums it up right there. She was like, whether she was treating him, whether she was like, I think that she was willing to go on this journey, not really kind of defining it in any way, but she wanted to, she was learning, she was stimulated intellectually, and I think she was willing to go wherever it took her.
Yeah, and Will clearly wasn't buying it, at least initially. Like he's just really such contempt for her, what feels like sort of like psychobabble when she's like, I lost myself. He's like, you didn't lose yourself. You crawled so far up Hannibal's ass that you didn't know where you were, or something like that. But it was really, I like to see Will sort of challenge her and be so, I don't want to say disgusted. He started out with like, no one's buying your bullshit, Bedelia. I just have a conversation with me. But it seemed like by the end, he really sort of maybe believed her. I don't know.
Well, I don't think it was that he believed her, but that he understood. Because she also mentioned, too, it's like you and I are kind of wearing the same shoes. Like, the first thing that she did was she compared their relationships as well. You know, Hannibal sent her cards and, you know, recipes on the holidays. And it's like Hannibal also, you know, holds Bedelia in a high regard, as he does Will, too. And so I think that by the end of the conversation, he understood and could really sympathize with Bedelia's position. And I mean, look where he is right now. Like, you know, she's like, did you learn nothing? You're back at the same games. Like, you know, so he gets it. I think that that's what that was. And I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful conversation.
I did too. I want to get into this whole, this whole Zach Quinto backstory because, I'm still not entirely sure that I understand it, and I hate when I don't understand something in this matter because I feel really, really stupid. And maybe someone in the chat room can help me, but Bedelia needs to die. I'm just curious. So did she kill him or not? And what was he choking on? And what happened there? Is this something that I don't remember from season 1 in this or season 2 in this explanation? Because I know the Zach Quinto character was a patient of Hannibal's, and his name was Neil Frank. I know Neil's a patient of Hannibal's. I know that Hannibal was messing with him in various ways. She sent him to Bedelia. Then the story was something happened. Bedelia killed him. He died. Something. Hannibal came and helped her cover it up, and that's the deal. Is this what happened? And then what?
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I will tell you, Julia would be the one to really field this question. I wish that she was here right now. I mean, from what I got from the actual show that I watched today was that I mean, because when she's talking to Will, she's talking about, you know, what is your first impulse when you see a bird that's dying? It's vulnerable. I want to help it. Well, her first impulse was that it's vulnerable and she wants to kill it. So I think that flashback was pretty much showing all of that. And I think that she did, you know, her initial thought was that she wanted to help him. But then her instincts and her primal rejection of weakness, as she so eloquently called it, just kind of, you know, nobody else was in the room. Nobody was watching. And so she could, you know, essentially shove her fist down his throat, and, you know, her initial, like, trying to help him just turned into killing him. And I think that was the relevance of the flashback.
Got it. So the chat room completely helped me out. Hey guys, help me out. And yeah, that's exactly right. So obviously Hannibal's condition him to sort of choke on his own tongue or swallow his tongue, which is what he did. In that moment, she, instead of clearing his airway or helping his tongue, shoved her hand down his throat, killed him because she was more curious about how that would turn out. And then, which is partially why I'm sure Hannibal sent him to her to do that, to see what she would do. And she did the thing. She killed him.
Well, that's really interesting. Do you think Hannibal was curious on what she would do, or do you think that Hannibal knew what she would do? That's why he did it, to kind of let her. He's like, I know that this behavior is in her. I just need to give her the opportunity to show it, to kind of show her colors, and then, you know, because Hannibal pretty much, you know, knows what people are going to do before they do it. Right.
So now we know. And then what's cool that we've heard about this, and we saw Zach Quinto in an earlier flashback when they kind of showed it, and then we're like, what's Zach Quinto doing? So it's kind of cool to see him actually, you know, get this origin story. I also really enjoyed the way they intercut that session with her session with Will. That was also very well done. Again, I'll say this a bunch of times during this podcast, but, you know, Guillermo Navarro, there's some really nice touches here. Just some really nice touches in terms of the presentation of this material. Because, again, we've seen it before, we've heard it before. How the script is written is one thing, but just how this is sort of visually presented is still just very unique. So I love the touches of her in the session with Will, and sort of flashing back with the sessions with my man. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So let's jump.
I loved the sessions with, sorry to cut you off, but I also loved how they did that session with, when they had the Red Dragon and they turned it into a session with with Hannibal. Like all of a sudden, the Red Dragon. They took that what was originally just. I think it originally was a letter that the Red Dragon had written to Hannibal, and here they turned it into a telephone conversation that the Red Dragon calls Hannibal, but then they took it a step further and turned it into almost like a memory palace-esque actual sit-down session.
Yeah,
which I thought was great.
And the memory palace stuff that's actually turned out to be a wonderful device because we get to see Hannibal in his sort of three-piece suit, quadruple Windsor ties, as opposed to only seeing him in the, in his prison garb, which we get
lavish cell.
Well,
that's huge.
Well, what's cool is I think what's cool we get to know Hannibal in both movies, in the books, especially both movies. Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, as well as, of course, Manhunter. We know Hannibal as the Hannibal in jail. We that's the iconic Hannibal we know. What Bryan Fuller's done is we know the Hannibal as Dr. Lecter, who is a slick, very well dressed doctor. So it's an interesting thing how we're introduced to this guy, and also we long for that guy. I don't know that we want to see Mads in the jumpsuit. I think we want to see Mads in a three-piece suit. So the fact that they found ways to get him in that wardrobe through the memory palace is I think very clever and very cool.
Yeah, well, they said I think one of the previous episodes say, the biggest thing for Hannibal and the one thing that he hates to suffer is losing his dignity. So I think that he's almost, in a way, the show is giving him his dignity by showing him, so well dressed and not shackled. He still appears to have freedoms when he really, this whole time, doesn't.
Yeah. So let's get back to Francis, and I want to, we can jump back and forth, but I want to get back to this whole sort of Francis and Reba interaction. I wasn't there when you guys talked about Reba, the introduction of Reba last week, but Retina Wesley, totally, I think, great inspired casting as Reba, and I think that these interactions are every bit as I've read it, I've seen it twice. It's the third time I've seen these interactions. I know how it's going to go, but it's still very tense, and I'm at the edge of my seat in the presentation of the Francis Reba relationship. I think it's very eerie. I think it's scary. I think it's touching. I won't say it's sexy, but I won't say that. But I will say the whole, the tiger scene again was great, and I think it's all sort of the ironic because William Blake's poem, The Tiger, and then there's a literal tiger, and it's kind of all tying together, of course, but that scene, which we all have seen in all the movies and in the book, of her sort of touching the tiger and getting, feeling it, and then being afraid, and then touching the teeth, and then finally ultimately laying down on him and then crying I thought it was just beautiful. I thought it was extremely well done, and I was really moved by it, even though we've seen it before. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was absolutely great. I think just the storyline between the two characters. They're such well written characters, and the storyline. I think that what I loved the most about that scene was actually watching Frances's reaction to her going through it emotionally, because she can't hide what's on her face emotionally because she doesn't see that, so she doesn't really know what she's revealing to the world. And I think that in a way he gets a little sneak peek into her vulnerability and into her side that she isn't aware that he's getting. And on the flip side, she can't see all of his ugly parts that he's trying to hide from the world, so he can really be open with her in a different way that he can't be with other people. So it's such a layered, really interesting relationship that they have. And it also helps him really, accept his own insecurities, because for somebody that it has a disability, she really is independent. And I think that that's really eye-opening for him as well.
Right.
The scene with the tiger was really sweet, and the fact when it was kind of getting really close to the teeth, I almost got in a sense that he wanted to dive in and protect her. So he's starting to get these really protective qualities, and it shows up a little bit later in the show as well. After they sleep together, he, now you can tell that he's at this internal war with himself that he now has to protect her from the Red Dragon, and and now he has a reason to kind of keep his Francis persona to kind of be with this woman, so it's just so good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's hard not to in part of this recap, this is what we have to do, but you don't necessarily want to do, is just keep comparing these performances to because there's we're so used to these movies, and we're kind of doing it online here as well in the chat room, talking about Brian Cox's Hannibal versus Mads' Hannibal versus Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal, especially in that one scene, which is pretty much identical in all the materials, where Hannibal makes the phone call to get Will's address. I think that it looks like in the chat room, the sort of grading who did it best, and I think the consensus is Brian Cox. But I like Hopkins. I like Cox's performance overall. I like Hopkins on the phone in that scene better. But back to Dolarhyde, our boy Thorin, Richard Armitage, Thorin from Lord of the Rings. I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's doing a great Francis Dolarhyde. I think the choices he's making sort of physically and visually, and because it's all about sort of his reactions and the looks on his face and his sort of physical presence and what he's doing is just it's probably, in my opinion, the best Dolarhyde I've seen. And that reaction that he has to Reba, especially during the tiger, is just fantastic. It's just wonderful to see.
He's really good, because what's difficult there, Joe, is that it is so easy to hate whoever is going to step into that role next, because you do have these preconceived notions of who and what Dolarhyde is.
Right.
So, it's not really easy. So I think that he took the classic, he has the look, first of all. He has that classic look. But I think that he took the best attributes of Dolarhyde and just kind of took it to the next level. It's almost like Francis 2.0, where he really kept the essence of the character, but still almost just gave it a little bit more emotion, but still internalized it. So he really did a great job.
Right. I agree. Armitage? I have no idea how to pronounce my man's name. Do you know, Marissa?
Classic Joe.
Armitage? I'm just the worst pronouncer.
I'm gonna
how do you say his name?
So I know to keep quiet.
Armitage. I have no idea, but he's great. I won't call him Thorin, but he's great. No, I do. He's fantastic. I think that and also back at the house and all that scene, of course, of the other famous scene where they first get to do it and they have that sort of interaction. She sort of mirrors what she did with the tiger, and sort of lean down with him. That was. And he drops a wine glass. I thought that was also. I can't help but be moved in a weird, odd way. I find myself sort of rooting for Dolarhyde to just not be a crazy person who's going to go kill more people. I just want to say, it's okay, man. You're great, and she loves you, and she loves you for who you are, and it's fine. And I don't know, man. I really, it's really remarkable knowing how this is going to end and knowing. What he's already done. I mean, he's already killed 2 families. So, it's I don't know. It's just really amazing.
Well, and it's great. I mean, it's just like the symbolism of the tiger, being this vicious, wild animal, and then him doing these vicious, wild things, and she still being able to kind of at the end be scared, but still cuddle up to it. And so I think that, and I loved it that they added that scene, just as little nuances. They added the scene when he's in bed with her, and he takes her hand and he puts it on her face, something that she was trying to do earlier to see whether or not he was smiling. And now, it shows that he's growing and he's opening himself up to her.
Right.
Because, but he doesn't want her to know it because he does it while she's sleeping. So it's just, it's such a sweet moment.
Yeah, very, very sweet. So then we have another sort of Hannibal, another psychedelic sort of Hannibal sex scene, which is not quite as dramatic or as sexy, at least for me, as the Margot as the
kaleidoscope sex scene.
Yes, but it was still cool. Nonetheless, it was still cool and very tastefully done. Again, more Guillermo Navarro, and I I guess I don't remember. I really don't remember that them doing that in Red Dragon the movie, but
I don't think they did. They didn't.
I don't think they actually had sex in the movie.
They didn't show it. I think they implied it because I thought that really like the last scene was them on the couch. But you know, back then everything was a lot tame. Now that we're on NBC and they'll show a sex scene,
right?
You know, when in a movie they didn't go there. It just shows, you know, kind of where we've come as how far we've come as a culture. That, you know, that they'll show a little bit more.
Right. So we get. I do want to talk about, you know, Hannibal referencing the poem as well with that one line. If I can find my notes because I suck. There we are. Yeah. Did he who made the lamb make thee? Which he said to Dolarhyde, and that we got to remember that that conversation. Dolar's pretty savvy, by the way. He's like James Bond. My man is like he's got a lot of moves. This Dolarhyde, like that's pretty sophisticated like way of getting it, you know, getting on the phone and then you know, and posing as a lawyer, getting his voice right. Dolarhyde, he's got some moves there. But anyway, yeah. So that interaction with Hannibal was also very cool. We didn't talk about that phone call, which actually turned into a memory palace. Now, help me out here because the phone call turned into him sort of imagining himself talking to Hannibal, but he's watching himself talk to Hannibal. That was kind of like a weird interpretation of what was happening there. Did you like what? Because
yeah, that's. Go ahead. I thought that. Well, I just think that anytime, and they've done it a lot with this show, where, you know, that somebody will be imagining something, and then all of a sudden it turns into a session. And I think it's the way that Hannibal speaks to people, and the questions that he asks, and he gets people to open up to them. So at the very, very beginning of that phone conversation, you know, he's savvy, he's James Bond, he gets in and he gets a phone call to Hannibal. But then as soon as he hears Hannibal's voice on the other line, you can tell he almost like fangirls it, where he like gets really nervous.
Yeah, fangirl, fanboy, fan dragon.
Yeah, he's a fan dragon.
Right.
Hashtag fan dragon. And so he gets really, really nervous, and he's like, you know, I'm so excited that you're taking an interest in my work. I have the script I want you to read. You know, I'm really, you know, so then Hannibal starts prying and really kind of getting into asking him these questions. And I think that, yeah, it almost turns into a session, because what Hannibal is doing is he's finding out exactly where his buttons are, exactly who he is. And Hannibal can do this in a matter of minutes.
Right.
And so in a sense, it does turn into a session, because Hannibal is always trying to get into the mind of other people. And I think that the way they did it was really, really great. Right.
So online, some folks are correcting me, particularly Steven and others. Everyone's saying the same thing. Thank you guys for helping me out here who are watching right now, because Lord knows I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, even after seeing and reading all these books. But the interpretation is directly that it's obviously Francis is a split personality. He's stuck between the Great Red Dragon and Francis, and it's Francis on the phone watching the dragon have a conversation with Hannibal, and which is personified.
Oh, that's great! That's awesome.
It seems to be.
That's very cool. Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you, everybody.
Everyone in the chat room seems to got that, except for you and I, Dua.
Everybody that watches the show. Well, everybody that watches the show, I love that they're diehard fans, and I love that they're smart, and they really, so shows like this where we can talk an hour about a show that is an hour, and people get it and they love it, and they just really kind of want to dissect things with us. That's why I love doing these shows.
Yeah. Stephen, thanks, Hardwick. Hardwick says I'm doing great. Stephen Elliott, I can't even pronounce the rest. Something Snyder. But anyway, thanks, guys. All of you guys, Sylvia, GBNF, Crestfallen, Deidre, all you guys, thank you for hanging in there with us. So they made mention, of course, that there's different body language. Like when you're watching that scene, of course, now it makes total sense. Francis is Francis on the phone, being very timid, and he's watching this conversation with the Red Dragon, who has completely different body language, completely talking to Hannibal with full confidence. And of course, we have that nice Guillermo Navarro touch where we actually see the real dragon personified, in full dragon form, which is also very cool, very, very Hannibal-esque. Schneider, hey, sorry, Shinder, I suck. Steven. I can't pronounce a goddamn name to save my
Joe,
life.
give it up.
Steven, Elliot, Camden, Shinder. I suck.
Well, that actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that does make perfect sense, because at the very end, the very, very final shot of that scene, he was the Red Dragon.
Yes.
And that was beautifully done. Like that whole, the graphics and all that technical stuff I don't understand that they do is just amazing.
Yeah. So that was cool. So we had that sort of interaction. I think what's left is we have to go back. We got through the Will Bedelia stuff, right? And we got to no Jack in this episode, right?
Yeah, no Jack.
No Jack.
No Jack. And yeah, so, and I posed a question last week, where, what exactly, and I'll ask you too, because I was curious to know what you thought, but what exactly do you think Jack's motives are? Because, you think of Jack and Will being these friends, but it's been now, they do a 3-year time jump.
Yeah.
Which was what was 7 years in the movie. They do a 3-year time jump, and then Jack is back asking Will to do something that he knows is going to damage him psychologically, that he knows is not good, but he's still asking, is Jack a selfish human being? What possesses Jack to make his,
Jack's got a job to do. Jack's on a rail. Jack's the guy with a one-track mind who has a job to do, and although he loves, and he's also loves Will and loves everything else, but at the end of the day, people are dying and families are dying, and the best guy in the game, the two best guys in the game are one is with his family somewhere, and one's in jail. So Jack's not going to go see Hannibal. Maybe he hopes Will, but Will. I said that. So Jack's trying to get that done, which makes sense to me in that sense. So we talked about briefly the Hannibal scene of him, getting Will's address, very charming in a very charming way. And then,
now, why does he do that? Is that is that just a sheer control thing? He does it again. He does it in the movie as well. But why does he want Will's address? Like, why is it just that? He's jealous
alert.
of his family, so he wants his family dead?
No, well, I don't know how this is to be interpreted, but obviously he sends Francis to Will's house to maybe be the other. Look, there's 11 days until the next full moon. I think we can assume that the next victim will probably be the Graham family. Graham fam, that's hard to say. The Graham family. But I think that, we can interpret that. I don't know how we can interpret that given what we know about the love affair between Will and Hannibal. It could be that Hannibal wants to keep Will for himself. It could be that Hannibal wants to take Will out. It could be, I don't know. In the book, it's perceived or in the movies, it's like Hannibal's going to get Will. That's what's happening. But in the film, in this version, I don't know what Hannibal's motivations are, because it could be straightforward revenge. It could be jealousy. I have no idea. But we'll soon find out. But that's what but it's going to happen, and I'm sure we'll get some exposition to sort of explain that down the road. But we do get the scene that we've seen a bunch of times where Francis again, my man James Bond, Francis Dolarhyde, puts on the costume, goes out and gains access to the museum, to the actual original 200-year-old chalk drawing of the Red Dragon. And he does what he does in all the movies. William Blake's drawing, and then does what he does, which is eat it. But I did like the choice that my man Thorin. I'll just say Thorin, because I'm done butchering. I did like the way Thorin ate it. I think Ralph Fiennes did the whole just shoved it in his mouth and sort of shoved it down and did the whole thing. Thorin does this sort of move where it's like he's devouring it, almost like it's seductive, and it's also like an animal. It's really, the bites that he's taken, his teeth being exposed like that. I thought that was very, very cool, interesting choice the way that went down. I think I like that better.
For a second, I thought that he wasn't going to eat it. I was like, oh, is he going to save it
Oh,
you know,
no.
why? What are your thoughts on why he eats it? I mean, it's like is it that he needs to just consume it? Like, why wouldn't he take it to his house and, you know, treasure it and worship it?
Right.
You know, like, with the choice to eat it just seems so, you know, especially after the you know, the curator or the museum person was talking about how, you know, it can't be in light. It's really delicate. This is like the colors, like any application don't match these colors. Like, it really is one of a kind. And he just devours it.
Right. GBNF says, maybe Thorin was just hungry. We shouldn't judge. And Steven says, well, will the dragon survive indigestion? Indigestion, who knows? But he does take down the painting. He eats it. It was great. And Will has that close call. The second person that wants to see the painting today, he sees him in the elevator, which is a very cool scene. The strength of Thorin, man. I mean, like, he picks him up and throws him against the wall, and then he freaking ghosts pieces out.
He is like James Bond. You're totally right.
Yeah, he's got all kind of moves there. This is the other word I can never say. Transubstantiation. You know.
Yes, transubstantiation.
Yes, that's what I meant. Transubstantiation. I'm educated and smart, folks. Don't mind me. I can pronounce words.
Learning words.
I'm learning words. Transubstantiation.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what happened. That's what happened to the painting. It got transubstantiated into the dragon's mouth and belly.
That is right. Body of Christ, body of dragon.
Body of dragon.
Body of dragon.
That sounds sacrilegious. I don't want to say that. Body. Anyway, so we'll we'll see. We kind of know where this is going, but we'll see what happens. Next episode as we continue to unpack the Red Dragon story. I gotta say, NBC. Damn you. I mean, I love you guys over there, and you guys are great. And I know Hannibal is canceled. I know it, but like they're not giving us any. They didn't give us any previews. They didn't give us any previews this time. They gave us a preview for that stupid looking tattoo show. What's it called?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't know.
Blind
but it's
Spot.
Like where
I mean, I know they don't want to use any valuable real estate to promote a show that's already been canceled, so they're going to use that valuable real estate to promote Blind Spot. But I mean, if Blind Spot isn't like the dumbest show I've ever seen in my life, I don't know what it is.
Well, look, don't.
So I'll be doing the after show here at AfterBuzz.
But I will tell you that
it
breaks my heart when shows that are as good as Hannibal get canceled, and then you see previews for things. That it's just like, it's like they're not trying to appeal to the intellectual demographic at all anymore. Like, it's all just reality and, like, fluff. And it's the same storylines you see over and over again with, different casts and different costumes. And it's just like, where are the shows that keep us, intellectually stimulated and visually tuned in?
This is one, Hannibal. I'm gonna try this for you, Deidre. Transubstantiation. That's my bad. My bad, Mason Verger.
Was that your Mason?
Transubstantiation. No, it's like Yoda. I'm like Yoda now.
Imitation?
Is that close? No?
Yeah.
Transubstantiation? I don't know. Ugh, I know. The answers are on our body. Blind Spot. Anyway, I think that's all time we got. We're going to see what we're going to continue this next week. Maybe we'll have Joe Sanfilippo. We'll have Julia. We'll definitely have Dua. We will definitely have me.
Definitely have Dua.
Wait,
definitely,
we're in town, right? Next week? Okay. I'm in town next week, so I will be here for sure. We'll all be here.
Yeah.
Oh.
How was Comic-Con, by the way? I haven't even talked to you since then.
You know what? I did not go to Comic-Con. That's how it was. I didn't make it.
Did you get grounded?
No, I had some
for a week.
Well, it was a busy week, but then I had some family stuff to take care of, so I was not able to go down. I missed all the fun with Martha and the gang. So yeah, so no Comic-Con for me. That's where I've been. It's been since Comic-Con. Have I not done a show since Comic-Con? That can't be right.
Well, I haven't. No, you have, but I have not because I was unavailable. I had something else. So, but we have not done a show together since Comic-Con.
All right.
And yeah, so there was no announcement on whether or not a fourth season would be picked up.
All right. No announcement there. I think it's looking kind of grim. I don't know if anyone online has any news on that, but But Marissa's just been furiously rapping me for the last 10 minutes. I'm just blabbering on, just me in the chat room.
I just want to hear your predictions.
Oh, my predictions!
What's upset? Joe's running over on time? That's
I know. It's just me. It's no Flippo, no Julia, no you.
AfterBuzz TV.
Okay, here we go.
Predictions.
All right. All right, here we go here. Bam. That's my prediction move. I predict. What can we say? Predict this. We know what's going to happen. It's Red Dragon. But
I know it's really hard. This is the hardest show to predict because
okay,
I don't want to make
Let me ask you a question.
This was my prediction last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. I think that Will's family is going to die.
Oh no.
I think that's going to be a
That's
change.
not going to happen.
In the movie, they don't die. I think both of them are going to die because I don't think Will is equipped to have a family. He's in a perpetual state of unhappiness.
Right.
They made the choice that his wife was supportive in lieu of being unsupportive like they did in the movie. So I think they're going to make the choice to have her die instead of live like they did in the movie.
Right. Well, I just been informed by our loyal watchers here as the host of the Hannibal podcast. I just been informed that Hannibal's been canceled officially. But they say that Hugh Dancy has another job, and it's officially canceled. Hugh Dancy's already going to be working on something else. I have been so buried in life and work, and doing my job as a TV person that I've not known this yet. So thank you for that. My prediction is that I like Alana Bloom will die. I don't know. I got no predictions. I got nothing. I think Alana Bloom, not Alana Bloom, I think Bedelia is going to die in some way because she's not a weird. There's some space to do some stuff with Bedelia because she's not an actual Thomas Harris character. So I think we'll see something very interesting with her.
She will be, if she does die, she will be eaten by Hannibal.
Somehow, yes. That's good prediction. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Steven and Donna and Deirdre and Hades and Hardwick and GB and F third time and I don't know, Crestfallen, Donna, who else? Everyone, I love you all. Dua, where can we find you?
At Dua Kaissi on Twitter. That's DuaKaissi on the Twitters.
On the Twitters, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at Joe K. Braswell. Thank you all for watching and listening. We will see you all next week. Goodbye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Buzz you later.
There it was. Bye.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.